Picture this, you're a Samsung smartphone user and you're eagerly awaiting OneUI 7 based on Android 15, an update that should in theory be a massive deal and take your already pretty stout phone up another level. New features, new look, exciting, and then you go to load it and not only is it delayed massively, but it's also buggy and with some pretty lackluster, if not straight up poor additions, a completely underwhelming delivery of mediocrity. But OneUI 8 is already in beta and it's an update that 7 really should have been. All the while, Google has absolutely killed it with its unveiling of the hot, shiny new Material 3 Expressive, an update that could genuinely convert a big chunk of people over to Pixel for the first time in a long while. And Apple decided to drop some fuel on the fire with its radical redesign of iOS, complete with fresh and totally not confusing naming scheme. It's all kicking off in the world of software and I for one am quite excited about it for the first time in many years. So let's get up to speed with what's actually happening right now. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas and OneUI 7 was a problem for many of us, for a few reasons, but the one that really stood out and caused a real ruckus was that some users in South Korea were reporting that their phones would not unlock after installing the update, a clearly critical error, and that led to a further delay for the global rollout. By the way guys, we're really trying to hit 500,000 subs, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that button, really help us out. Cheers. That wasn't all. Discourse on social media was generally mixed about the update. It was a massive update in terms of a fresh coat of paint and some changes to the functionality in the app drawer, the notification shade, but that was then lacquered by a general, lack of polish, which made it more bittersweet. OneUI 8, which is now 2 updates deep, is looking much less intense of an update. I mean, seriously, you're going to need a microscope to see some of these changes, but one that files down the more rough edges to create a more complete and less abrasive experience. It's rumoured to drop when Samsung reveals its new foldables this summer, you know, the Z Fold 7 and the Z Flip 7, so it's not a million miles away, and the current beta software actually feels like that. It's far more complete than you would expect from a test software build. Speaking of, iOS 26 looks like a ways off right now. Apple decided to rebrand all of its software so that the names line up in terms of the software numbers. Sort of makes sense, and it looks like actually iPadOS and macOS are the ones that are going to see the biggest, most impressive, more interesting changes to their versions, but iOS 26 definitely looks different, doesn't it? The liquid glass aesthetic, which looks to be a toggleable option in the UI for stuff like the icons on the home screen, features light refraction in ways that looks really cool and sometimes barely readable, so there's clearly a lot of work to do here with the practicality of the theming setup before the final drop, which is expected sometime September this year, maybe, we'll see. I mentioned in a recent video that iOS 26 was a little bit divisive, and let me tell you, Twitter, when this thing came out, was an absolute bloodbath. People calling it the worst update to iOS ever, people who haven't installed it yet, and others absolutely entranced by the cool lighting and the cool light refraction, some of which, again, hadn't downloaded it yet. And something I haven't noticed anyone pick up on yet is it's reverted back to the OG camera icon on the home screen. I don't know why I like that detail, but yeah, I appreciate it. I'm sure Apple will refine this so that we don't run into the same bizarre readability issues that we've seen in other betas in the final software, and there's a reason why this is not a publicly accessible build just yet, because the team is still working on it. It's not fully baked just yet. The reason why people didn't love OneUI 7 is that there were lots of rough edges in the final public build, the one that gets pushed out over the air to people who probably have no idea what a beta software even is. So OneUI 8 coming in as a consolation as opposed to an exciting new release. But I don't think either of these updates really holds a candle to Material 3 Expressive, a transformative update that really levels up the Pixel experience in my opinion. I have the QPR update installed on a couple of Pixels around here, including the 7A, which I use all the time, and it is just a breath of fresh air, adding the animated physics to the whole thing, bringing in haptic feedback to sort of match what's going on the screen so that everything feels more fluid and feels like a more natural interaction underneath your thumb or your finger and what's happening on the screen. It genuinely feels like that step up that a lot of us have been waiting for a very long time. And similarly to how Apple is introducing a suite-wide update, Google bringing M3 to its Pixel Watch as well is something I'm really looking forward to. And the idea is to make better use of its circular form factor and pebbly, rounded display, and that update looks really promising. You could have argued a year or so ago that software got quite boring and quite samey. I don't think that many people would have taken offence to that opinion. I mean, some people would, this is the internet after all, but my point is that broadly, software was getting quite stale. I think my video on Android versions not mattering so much actually does continue to be relevant because we are seeing major individual UI and UX changes from these individual software makers, not Android 15 wide or Android 16 wide, but OneUI, Pixel Experience, ColorOS, HyperOS, so on. They'll all continue to have and build on the individual pulls with the flair and the excitement. What we seem to have now is more of like a race to the top when it comes to software from Samsung, Apple and Google, and as a hardware fanatic, that isn't my favourite news in the whole wide world because I feel like there has been a bit of a plateau in hardware for a few years now, but it does mean that phones should still be getting nicer even if it's in software and not in hardware. We've already seen many Android makers commit to more software updates going forward, which should in theory make for a better long-term ownership experiences and make these phones far more viable in the second-hand market as well. Not to mention the idea of we'll look after you for longer that makes customers want to come back and continue to buy your products. It's a sneaky tactic, but one that I think could also benefit users if the software and hardware are up to scratch going into the 4th or 5th year of ownership. And we've started to see other smartphone makers commit to longer software periods, even if they aren't quite as longevous as the likes of Google and Samsung. And I'm sure we'll also see other players make moves in their own software design to stand out and look more current and exciting. The likes of Oppo, Xiaomi, Honor, Vivo, they've all made pretty big changes over the last 5 years, and perhaps we'll see a springboard for something more. And I would love to see something from Motorola to really bring them back into the fold as well. That was not a pun. It might have been, but I didn't intend it to be. Smartphone software just went turbo and it's looking like an exciting time. I cannot wait to get playing with the new software builds and transformative user interfaces. It's the first time in a very long while that I'm actually excited about software. Let's just hope that we don't run into the same delays and issues that have come up in recent years. Guys, let me know what you think about the new software coming out from the big three this year, and which one are you most excited about? Let me know which model you've installed betas on in the comments. Do you have like a phone that you use specifically for the beta builds, or do you run it on your main device? Do you just go, you know what, let's just go for it? Or are you a bit more like me and you're not the type to load up non-final software on your primary smartphone and you'll instead patiently wait for an official public rollout later down the road? Anyway, whilst you're down there in the comments, be sure to like if you enjoyed today's content, and of course subscribe to never miss another upload on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.